Well, we're coming to your city. Gonna play our guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin yang, come along.
Ball has been I think a real cooperative venture. There have been a lot of people that have been involved with it. Coaches, administrators, not recently.
That was Bob Knight 20 years ago. Today, Bob Knight was fired as the head basketball coach at Indiana University. That was actually him giving his farewell speech at Dunn Meadow. I think that actually occurred a couple of days later. Dustin Schutte sitting in today with us. Dustin, how are you, man?
I'm doing great, Jim. I got to tell you that intro, though, that coming to your city kind of makes me miss the college game day intro for Big Ten football season.
I'm telling you, it does. And we will talk plenty about Big Ten football today as more information continues to come out. Dan Patrick is Mr. Big Ten. But today is a day that 20 years ago, Bob Knight was fired. I normally when something like this happens, you're like, man, I can't believe it's been 20 years. I can believe it feels like it's been 22 years. This feels more like 20 years for a fact. I can't believe it's only been 20 years, to be honest with you, because it seems like it has exactly been that length of time or longer, because this has been a saga that has drawn out so long and finally culminated last winter with the return of Bob Knight to Assembly Hall, Dustin. But man, this is a pinpoint moment in Indiana University history.
Yeah, and I think for everybody in Indiana, when you think back to that, basketball is such a religion in the state that I think everybody was glued into the television sets. I remember, as a youngster being glued into the television sets when, the Indiana president came on and made his decision, and the board made their decision, and it was just such a shocking moment. And it's still almost shocking to know that that's how his tenure ended. But it's good that he was able to get back to Bloomington in the winter, able to get back to Assembly Hall, and, perfect timing would have it because, with everything going on right now with the pandemic and all the uncertainty, who knows if he would have had another opportunity to get back there. So it kind of worked out for the best that he was able to get back to Bloomington and Assembly Hall last winter during that Purdue Indiana game.
Absolutely. I think that was now for a fact. I thought this then that was the last opportunity. Well, now for a fact, we know that was the last opportunity. But with what has happened, there will not be fans this year. I don't expect fans at Big Ten basketball games. They're struggling enough as it is. Don Fischer is going to join us here in a little bit, so we're going to talk to him about the events that transpired 20 years ago, as he has been there the entire way. Dane Fife, also a player at the time on that team. I saw a clip yesterday that he was announcing his transfer from Indiana University when all that stuff was happening. A TV crew was talking to him. Yes, I'm Dane Fife. I'd like to announce my transfer from Indiana University. And it was just running around and all that stuff settled down. But he'll be joining us as well. We'll go ahead and get Don on the phone there. He'll be joining us here in a second. Perfect. Don's going to join us here. Haven't spoken with Don, oh my gosh, since the end of last basketball season, since we went through the pandemic. Don is on normally. And can you do that so where it's not live on the air when you call him, Will? Okay. Just want to make sure. Talking to the producer. But it's been since the basketball tournament, since I've spoken to Don. I mean, not just here and there a little bit, but he's joined us every week. And it's been so weird that this just chunk of time, it's like a chunk of time has just been removed from our lives with this COVID situation.
Yeah, it really has. It's felt like at the same time, like it's been an eternity, but at the same time, it's gone so fast with, everything trying to keep up with all the new information and everything, especially in the sports world. So it's just been a hectic time, and it'll be good to reconnect with him for sure.
Yeah, it's very great to get his perspective on things, because nobody probably has greater perspective than Don Fischer. He was there. He was there for years before. He was there during the run, and has been there. Is still there. Has been there through every coach afterwards. So he's seen it all. I'm looking forward to getting him on here in a few minutes. Waiting for Will to get. But we'll keep working on getting Don on here with us, and of course Dane Fife, who's still coaching. He's at Michigan State. Of course, basketball is something that I think that we definitely are going to have, Dustin, after the I call it the major screw up with football in the Big Ten. And I saw something yesterday that said that they're going to try to play non-conference games as well, which that surprised me. I would think that I would be surprised, shocked that they did not just try to get the conference season in. Then there's talk of the ACC introducing an all-in NCAA tournament, which, yeah, that ain't going to work. That's like, 372 teams in the NCAA?
Yeah, I think it ended up being 346 when you took out all the the recent transitions and the teams that are ineligible because of the APR. But yeah, I was a little surprised by, just like you, that they had decided they were intent on playing the non-conference schedule with everything going on and trying to create, basketball bubbles and bubble locations. But I think at the same time, we talk about the blunder that's happened with the football season, and I think the Big Ten has learned its lesson. I think that they're going to wait as long as possible and see what the situation is going to be come November. I know the board of the Division I Council is going to vote on when to start the college basketball season on September 16th. So it'll be interesting to see. But I think the Big Ten is going to hold out as long as possible because they realize what happened with this football season, how poorly it was managed, the lack of communication, lack of transparency. And you just can't do that with another major sport with so much money on the line. I think they're going to hold on to those non-conference games until the last possible second.
Yeah, we'll talk a lot about Big Ten football later. I'm going to get through the Bob Knight stuff when we get Don on here, but we'll go ahead until we're getting Don on. Dan Patrick talked about here we go with this voting stuff again. There was not a vote, but to the way I've read it, what do you call a soft vote, a quiet vote, whatever you want to call it, still leaves them one team short of being able to play football right now. And that means the Michigan teams, the Illinois teams of the Illini and Northwestern, Rutgers and Maryland have still declined to play. That means Indiana's flip-flopped. These other teams have flip-flopped, but they don't have enough. And shockingly, the Michigan teams are keeping this out. I mean, Harbaugh's got to be pulling his hair out.
Oh yeah, and he attended the parent protest the other day with a bunch of players in Ann Arbor. And so I think that, he even said that he's texted with the Michigan president, Mark Schlitzel, and he hasn't had any face-to-face conversations with it. And that's just a real disappointment when you think about how big this decision is. This is potentially the biggest decision in the history of Big Ten athletics. And all of a sudden, you're not having those conversations with your head coaches, with your players. You're not willing to go out and get their perspective on this stuff. And instead, you're just kind of going behind the scenes, locking your office door and hiding underneath your desk, and you won't provide any explanation. So, I think Jim Harbaugh is probably in the most precarious situation because, he's been advocating to play. The football program has had 0 positive COVID-19 tests in the entire month of August. And I don't think they've had any positives in September. So they've done everything right. And yet they're not getting any communication with their college president. And that has to be extremely frustrating at this point.
It's not just them either. It seems like there has been, there has been. We've talked about it exhaustively here. The lack of communication, not only from the Big Ten, but from within the schools themselves. Penn State, the athletic director, Sandy Barber, no idea what was going on with their president. But I saw yesterday, I was reading the coaches, they're almost beside themselves with anger, the lack of communication between the coaches and the commissioner. Kevin Warren is doing himself no favors. I know that the presidents made this decision, but we don't know how much impact he had on them making this decision, number one. But number two, running away and hiding like he has done this entire time, like these other presidents have done, besides Mitch Daniels, it's a joke. And I don't see how this serves you well for a long tenure in this league, because football is the engine that drives this train. No matter, even though Indiana sees basketball a lot, overall in the Big Ten Conference, football drives that train.
Right. And it happens everywhere. It's every conference. And when you look at and see what they've been able to do in the SEC, the ACC, the Big 12, I mean, Miami is playing tonight. You're going to have ACC football tonight. And so the Big Ten pulled the trigger so quickly, and Kevin Warren hasn't been able to provide any answers to this point. He's unwilling to go on public record, and other than to provide an open letter. So yeah, he's really not doing himself any favors. And, you look at Jim Delaney having a 30-year tenure, and he was very successful. He was very ingenuitive. He got a lot of things started for the Big Ten. It had this conference heading in the right direction and making it the richest conference in all of college sports. And in a matter of 9 months, Kevin Warren has torn it down.
Yeah, I think we had Don there with us, and we lost him. I heard the call drop. So we'll try to get him back on once more and get back to Don Fischer. But, yeah, it's a situation going on right now. I'm trying to juggle two things here with the Bob Knight firing and talking about Big Ten football. But I guess we should stick to the Bob Knight firing for a minute. Don with us. Don, you there? Can you hear me? Not a problem. We appreciate it. I was just talking. I said, man, normally we get to talk to Don each week, and it's been months and months and months since I've gotten to talk to Don, which means hopefully we're a little closer to things coming back, but that doesn't really mean that. I just thought we'd get him on with talking about it's been 20 years, Don. Coach Knight was fired in Indiana. And normally when we think of things that have been that long ago, it seems like it's been fast. To me, it seems like it has been at least 20 years, if not more, since that happened. Absolutely, and we've still continued to come through. Thank goodness last winter, especially with what's going on now with COVID and all that, Coach Knight was able to come back and get back in, because, man, we with the situation and health and all that, it might have been the very last time that could have happened.
All those players came back. There were almost 60 players that returned to celebrate Coach Knight coming back to Assembly Hall, and it was closure for those players, just like it was closure for the fan base. So it was a special day. Without question, he did not look good. Obviously, he's going through some very serious health issues, all those kinds of things, but he's moved back to Bloomington, and obviously a lot of people get to see him.
Absolutely, and great to have that happen. And now that we move on to the fall, Don, and we're hopeful hopeful. We're still hoping. We don't know what's going to go on with football. None of us do. And now we're hopeful for basketball as we move forward to thinking about that as well and see what they're going to, the start date, because that, of course, impacts you because your entire job, you're waiting to see who's going to start, what to start preparing for, and all of that. What's it been like for you because everything you do is built around what we're waiting on?
Well, honestly, it's difficult. I mean, you know, for the month of August, you're watching practice sessions and getting familiar with the players, and none of that happened this year. And then the season was supposed to start this past weekend. It did not, obviously. It's just kind of surreal. There's no question about that. And you're just trying to figure out what can you do, or is there anything you can do, which obviously there's not in regard to getting ready for a football season that now appears it could happen again. I guess there's all kinds of talk and rumor stuff about the fact that they could play a winter schedule of some kind in the Big Ten and into enclosed facilities, that type of thing, that may start someplace around Thanksgiving. We just don't know. I mean, and that's what they're also talking about in basketball, that we could have a basketball season that starts around Thanksgiving. So right now, the Big Ten, who decided that they were not going to play football, to my chagrin, and obviously, in my opinion, made a mistake in that regard. But now, of course, they're trying to find a way to play. And honestly, I hope that they do. It's going to cause some issues in regard to, you know, if the football and basketball season are completely overrun like they have been in November in past years and conflict with one another. There'll be some real issues from a conflict standpoint from a broadcaster's perspective, but at the same time, at least we'll be playing football and basketball again, hopefully sometime in late November.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it one way or the other as well, so we can get back to that. But excited. And how appropriate is it for Indiana football in a season where probably one of the best, I'm not going to say in program history, but pretty daggone good, that kind of season coming, and this is what happens.
Exactly, and it's the same for basketball. I mean, there's no question that everybody is excited about this basketball team coming in as well. So you've got two sports at Indiana University, the two primary sports, and I say primary in the sense that they're the money makers for the school. Those two sports right now are in limbo, and it's just sad. It really, really is sad. And both of those teams have the potential to be spectacular in regard. And I'm not saying national championship or anything like that. I'm simply saying from a football perspective, I don't think there's been as much anticipation for a football season for any team in recent history. And I'm saying that because we haven't had that many good football teams for the last 25 plus years. So we're looking at a program that is on the rise. Tom Allen has done a remarkably good job in recruiting. He's done a great job of getting this team, getting all the complementary pieces put together, and now you appear to have maybe all those pieces set in and able to perform. They can't, and that is the frustration level. What it is for us as fans, we know that frustration level is huge. What do you think it's like for this coaching staff and for the players? I mean, these guys have to be so disappointed in what's going on right now, and the inability to do the things that they think that they're capable of doing. And granted, maybe it doesn't turn out to be as good as you'd like, but the fact that they had such a competitive look to them for this upcoming season is just so disappointing at this juncture.
It truly is, and I hope that for everybody involved, for the towns, for the kids, for the coaches, for the programs, that we can get past this as soon as possible. And I can't thank you enough to take time out of your busy schedule to spend a few minutes with us, and I look forward to hopefully getting back to doing this on a weekly basis as soon as possible.
Well, it would be nice. Trust me, I'd like to do it. And because I'm late getting to you, if you want to hold me over for another segment, I'm happy to do so. But if you got other plans, that's no problem. I just wanted to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for you guys.
Oh, we appreciate you. We've got Dane coming on next. You want to talk to him for a second? That would be great for him to join us, but you'd have to wait 3 minutes through the break.
Who's coming in?
Dane Fife.
Oh, Dane. Absolutely. I'll stick around for that.
Oh, goody good. All right. Well, let's just go straight to break then. We'll do that now, and we'll get Dane on with us next. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat. We're coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Don Fischer with us now, and we'll be back with Dane Fife right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the Golf Club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic, safe, effective, even money-saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
Today's guest is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, with hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer. Pizza, burgers, beer. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville.
Welcome back, welcome back, welcome back, welcome back.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. The great Don Fischer with us, and now we've added Dane Fife as well, former player for IU, currently at Michigan State. But Dane, how are you doing, sir?
Yeah, hey, I'm here.
There you go. Got Don Fischer on with us as well. Dane Fife, 20 years ago. I can't believe, Dane, it's been, well, I can believe I said earlier that normally when you have an event of such magnitude as the Firing Coach Night, that time seems like it goes by so fast, but it seems like it's been 20 years to me, and I can't believe that, but it truly does. But you were right there in the middle of all of it.
Well, if you just look at Don's golf game, that'll tell you everything you need to know how it's evolved in 20 years. And the culmination of when I asked him to be my partner a couple of years ago, thinking we were going to win, and Don was worse than I was, and that says a lot, because I don't think there's a worse golfer in the Midwest region than myself.
You're talking to him. You're talking to him right now.
Oh, gosh, dog it. Hey, Rich, how are you?
I was just talking to Don about his game. He said he's had a few struggles this year, but he's got it. I think he's got it worked back out. He's heading out to the IU course today. He's on with us, Don. I think you need to get Dane down to the IU course.
Well, Dane has to understand one thing. When the pressure's on, I fold. And he didn't realize that at the time that we played together. So, obviously, Dane got the worst of it, and now he thinks I'm the worst player he's ever seen. But I'm not the worst player. I'm just an among them. This is the first time we've spoken, Jim, so you're bearing witness to the power of loyalty
loyalty, the fact that we're still speaking. But, hey, 20 years, 20 years and more than 20 pounds ago, this was a huge day for me, from the sense that I went down to Indiana to play for Coach Knight, and loyalty is something that we all valued, especially as it pertained to Indiana basketball and Coach Knight. So we're 20 years old, a lot of us, and a lot of emotion, and you're seeing today young people expressing their emotions, some good and some bad, and you saw it 20 years ago, and a lot of us expressing our emotions, some good and some bad, and there'll probably be some media snippets of different interviews that different players did, and I think it's a lot of what's going on today is we've got people that think they can say anything and do anything, and so not much has changed in 20 years.
Don, I'll let you take over this part.
Well, Dave, I know one thing. Had you not stuck around for the next 2 years after Coach Knight got fired, Indiana probably would not have been. And I'm not blowing smoke here. I'm telling the truth, because you became one of the leaders on that basketball team, and one of the people that everybody admired because of your competitiveness and your toughness, even to the point of which you would do a couple of things occasionally that might be a little questionable on the court. But that said, you helped lead that team to a national championship game, and one of the most exciting seasons that I've ever been a part of, and that's something that I think every Indiana fan would agree with.
Well, Fish, that's a great segue into let's talk about me, huh? But you know what, Don, that's true, and we felt a certain loyalty also to each other, and that's what kept us going. And one of the things that we were at least asking was to keep the staff together as much as we could, and so that's something that was important to our group. And so you've got guys like Kirk Haston and Jared Jeffries and Kyle and Tom Coverdale, and new guys like A.J. Moye and Jeff Newton, George Leach. That was a tight-knit group, and it was a tight-knit group because we went through a lot. And now, what is a lot? That depends on the group, but I know that we went through a lot as far as, the intensity and the gravity of the situation, and then being part of Indiana basketball. If you look at it in basketball terms and emotional terms, it's a pretty stressful situation. And so I think to sum it up, we really decided that it was important that we learn to embrace one another and embrace the program, work together. And you saw it because we didn't have the most talent, but we were such a close group that it's still fun to watch today just because of the way we played together and the way we enjoyed one another. And I was just with Jared Odell the other day, and there's nothing more enjoyable than talking about those times.
Hey, Dane, one other thing from my perspective, Coach Knight came back this year to Assembly Hall, tremendous crowd reaction to it. I think, and I've said this all along, I thought it brought a lot of closure to a lot of Indiana basketball players who played for Coach Knight, but also to a Hoosier Nation fan base that revered Coach Knight and what he did for Indiana University. What were your thoughts in knowing that he was coming back, or at least maybe seeing some replays of it and so on?
Mm-hmm. Well, as I watched it, it was it just brought back a ton of great memories. I saw him march over to that the scorers table and the I guess the first row where the group sits, and it was I remember him sitting there. I remember him tearing it apart a couple times. But I also felt the same feeling, like he's back. This is where he belongs, and this mends a lot of fences. I mean, it mends a group that has, I guess, to put it with a pretty intense term. It really brought a lot of closure and to a program that had fractured and devastated for so long by such a bad moment. But I got to run, fellas. As I said, I gotta go get in the meeting, and we're ready to roll. And the Spartans are marching on, and I appreciate the time. And Fish, love you, love the General, love Indiana basketball, and you guys have a great day and enjoy this bittersweet moment.
Dane
Thanks,
Pfeiffer,
Dane.
can I thank you
Thank
enough,
you,
brother?
guys.
You're always so grateful with your time, gracious, and we appreciate you, brother. Thank you. Don Fischer, you just made this day even
Thanks,
better
guys.
as well. I cannot thank you enough. The great Don Fischer, I can't thank you enough for joining us as well. I know we got to get you off to a tea time as well. So thank you, sir. You made this day better, even better than I could have imagined. So thank you so much.
You bet, Jim. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
We're looking forward to it. Look forward to doing it every week. There's Don Fischer, the great Don Fischer, joining us from Indiana, and then, of course, former basketball player Dane Fife as well on the program. We got tons more coming up, man, although we could just pack it in right now because it can't get much better than that. But let's see. We're not even – it's not time for a break, so I guess we should just stay here, huh? We'll just keep it here. Dustin Schutte, he's sitting in with us, although he's got pushed back to the corner here of late. Did not expect to have – Don Fischer interviewing Dane Fife this morning, which, man, oh, man, but as soon as that started happening, I'm like, everybody just get out of the way. That's like the guy taking a basketball one-on-one, and you just tell everybody, just get out of the way, baby.
Yeah, you just have a little isolation there because you just sit back and you listen to two Indiana legends, and that was incredible. So I don't mind sitting back on the sidelines there. I guess my only question for you, Jim, is how do I get the introduction of the great Dustin Schutte the next time I'm on? Don Fischer. Does it mean I have to work for 30 years in the sports industry?
45, I think. He's closing in on 45, I think. It's getting close to that. He didn't come. He wasn't here when Bob Knight arrived. I think Don came in like the 75 season, maybe around that time. But he's still here. So he has been through national titles, ups, downs, every freaking thing. Firing Bob Knight. Been through Bob Knight, period. That's an experience. I tell you, I'd really love to get on here is Kit Klingelhofer. Kit, former professor of mine, actually, but he was the SID during the nighttime. He still lives in Bloomington. I see him all the time. You talk about the man that has the stories. That dude has got the stories. I promise you. But that was incredible and incredibly fun. Reminiscing a little bit about that. But it seems like it's been 30 years for me, to be honest with you. That time. It's just weird how that time has passed and gone through.
Well, and I think when you think about the ups and downs that Indiana's basketball program has gone through and the rebuild and so many head coaches now, with Tom Crean and Kelvin Sampson, Mike Davis, and now Archie Miller. And there's been just very little consistency. And that was the one thing you had under Bob Knight was just a consistent program. You knew that team was going to get at least to the NCAA tournament. They were going to compete for Big Ten championships. I know at the end of near the end of Bob Knight's run, it wasn't quite as glamorous as it had been before, but you knew that was going to be a competitive team. You knew that they were going to play hard-nosed defense and just live up to the Indiana basketball standard. And I think that there's been a lot of frustration recently because they haven't quite delivered on that, especially on the defensive end of the floor. So hopefully, if you're a fan of Indiana basketball or in a fan of a blue blood program, you're hoping that Archie Miller can get that back. So you saw moments of it last season. But if we're able to get this basketball season up and running, as Don said, this is a team that you look at this year and the talent they have coming in, and what kind of success they had last season. This could have been a big year for the Hoosiers.
Absolutely. Just because I want to get to it, because we're going to talk a lot of football in the next segment in the NBA last night. OG and Toronto, they are hanging on by a thread as they drive, and they send last night's game into two overtimes before they pull it out, 125-122. That series is now tied at 3 games apiece. Game 7 coming on Friday night. It is the only game Friday night at 7 o'clock. 7 o'clock. So looking forward to that, as that series is now tied at, I think, 3 games apiece. So, man, That's a tough one. And, of course, the Lakers and the Rockets, that series is tied at 3 games apiece. No, that series just started. It's 2-1, Lakers up. That next game is also, I think, Friday. 9.5-point favorite, the Lakers are. Tonight we've got NFL football, Dustin, opening up. The Texans and who they play? The Chiefs. So I don't know what the Texans are going to be like, how good their defense is, but the Chiefs, man, we know what the Chiefs have.
Yeah, that should be a fun matchup. You get a lot of football tonight. You get the start of the NFL season. You get the start of the Power 5 football season with Miami taking on UAB. So you get a healthy dose of football tonight. And I think, it's become America's sport, and that's right now what we need is an NFL game, a college football game. It doesn't get much better than that on a Thursday night.
How about UAB? The fact that they have been able to come back and be competitive enough to play a team like Miami within, 2 years of shutting their team down and it's been longer than that, I guess, but 4 years. But they shut the program down for 1 year and then restarted it back. But it doesn't matter. When you stop and restart, man, that's a lot. And to be in this position, that's amazing to me.
Look at what it did to SMU. When they were a powerhouse program, they shut down for, I don't remember what it was, 1-2 years or whatever the case might have been.
But that was the death penalty.
Right. And they haven't come back. And you're talking now about a program that was shut down. It wasn't very good before. Bill Clark comes in there, and I think they won 10 games last season. So in such a short period of time, it's almost kind of like Tom Allen at Indiana, right? Like he takes over a program that hasn't been very good in the past. And when you get the right guy with the right mentality and he's able to recruit, magical things can happen. And that's what you're seeing at UAB. So it's going to be interesting tonight. Miami's first game, UAB has already played one game. They played Central Arkansas last Thursday. So it'll be interesting to see if that one game of experience helps them out. Maybe they pull off an upset tonight and give us something to talk about in the college football world heading into the weekend.
A little high school basketball note. Cooper Jacoby, a teammate to Trey Kaufman, Indiana top target. Cooper Jacoby on his Silver Creek teammate, committing to Toledo. I just saw, so he's off the market. But they're going to have a really, really good high school team this year. Is looking forward to watching that as well. Hey, we're going to hit a break because we got a lot more to talk about. Big Ten football. Dan Patrick says they don't have enough teams to play. We'll talk about that and a lot more. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, and we're back with more right after this.
Hello, everybody. Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat. When I'm not covering the Hoosiers, you can find me at Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Now that warm weather has arrived, it's time to hit the links, and there's no better place than the golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Voted best golf course by the readers of the Bloomington Herald-Times, the golf club at Eagle Point is under new ownership, has new fairways and bunkers, and it's open to the public. When the round's over, there's cold beer and a full menu at the Eagle Point Pub and Bistro. Call 812-824-1100 to make a tee time. That's 812-824-1100. The golf club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. This is Jim Coyle from Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary. Indiana Sports Beat is now a part of the Rivals Network. You can go to thehoosier.com to sign up. It's free. Catch the show there each day live or at your convenience. You can also like or follow us on Facebook, follow the show's rebroadcast anywhere you podcast. If we're not on a radio station where you live, we should be. Let your local station know they need to carry Indiana Sports Beat with Coyle and Leary, or simply go to thehoosier.com.
Some of the best sounds you'll ever hear are generic. Safe, effective, even money saving, just like FDA-approved generic drugs. Even if they don't come in the exact same color or shape as their brand name equivalents, they have the same key ingredients and go through a rigorous review process. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today and visit fda.gov/generic drugs. Generics are safe, effective, and can save you money. You'll like the sound of that.
This segment is brought to you by Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
Everybody does, yeah, that's okay, yeah.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios on this Thursday. It is September 10th. That means tomorrow's 9/11, so we have to be prepared for that. But, man, oh, man, all right, we went away. We got tons of Big Ten football to talk about. There are talks about them having another vote, Dustin Schutte from Saturday Tradition sitting in with us today. Dustin, talk about another vote, but yet Dan Patrick, who has been all over this year, says that basically they don't have enough teams to play. They still don't have enough teams to play. They have to have, nine, I think, out of the 14. And right now, Northwestern, Illinois, Michigan State, Rutgers, Maryland, 6 teams that are out still. And unless somebody flips, they don't have enough teams right now, which is crazy. But here's sound from Dan Patrick. Yeah, it's another radio show, but that's okay. He's big time. We're not.
The Big Ten is still up in the air. If you were not with us in the first hour, I gave you an update from my source that there's still a pushback from the medical community in the Big Ten to not play. And I was told they simply don't have enough teams to play. I was told that the Michigan teams not going to play. Illinois teams, that's Illinois and Northwestern, are not going to play. Maryland's not going to play. And Rutgers probably won't play. That doesn't leave you with much if you're able to pull this off. And now I'm told that the medical community with the Big Ten is trying to push to November now. It was October 10th. That was the target date so they could get in a 10-game schedule and qualify for the postseason. I don't think that's going to happen. So you're not going to have Michigan.
There was Dan Patrick from the Dan Patrick Show, Dustin, and everything he said, he's been on it. So whatever he's saying, you can pretty much think, all right, because he's got his finger on the pulse of somebody that is feeding him the information. So now we're looking at November, and it is pointless. I mean, they're going to lose so many players. You cannot play twice in the same calendar year. That wrecks the next season. Are they on the verge of screwing 2 seasons up? And if you do that, what does that do to the league?
Right. And I think the interesting thing is, I think we've talked about this before too, is you talked to Aaron Wellman, who's in charge of the strength program there at Indiana, and Tom Allen. It doesn't seem to me like Indiana is really all about playing this spring. They don't want a spring season. Tom Allen wanted as little interruption with the 2021 season as possible. And I think that that's probably a sentiment that's shared quite a bit. But the one thing I will throw out there, and I don't know, this is just being a little bit of a devil's advocate, I guess, is are there teams like Purdue, Illinois, maybe Northwestern or Michigan State that do want to play a full winter or spring schedule because they think, hey, Ohio State's top players, they're not going to play. Penn State's top players, they're not going to play. We might have a chance to win a Big Ten championship or finish with a winning record, and that may help us with recruiting. I mean, I don't know. That's something to think about with a guy like Mel Tucker at Michigan State, who's having all kinds of trouble on the recruiting trail. That's something to talk about at Rutgers with Greg Schiano. Is there some incentive there to say, hey, we can have a really good season because some of these top tier teams, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, their first and second stringers aren't going to be playing a whole lot. We have a chance to win a lot of games if we have a winter or spring season. So that's where my question comes from. You're not going to have a national championship team, but could you have some of these teams that are in that middle tier maybe say, hey, we might have a shot if we play in the spring because we know some of these top tier players aren't going to suit up for they're just going to go straight to the NFL draft.
Well, another thing, these teams that are not playing, the Big Ten, the Pac-12, that's got to impact recruiting, because kids that are coming in knows that, all right, well, their fall athletes have been granted another year of eligibility. Got to beat those guys out. They're not even playing. There's no incentive to go to Greg Schiano at Rutgers. How do you build a recruiting base in the middle of this when recruiting is being so impacted negatively? But them not playing cannot help them, I don't think.
Right. Yeah. It's darned if you do and darned if you don't, because you have to play, in my opinion, even though I don't like the idea of a spring season, you have to play in some capacity, because you have to have that exposure. You have to be able to show recruits what your product is. Otherwise, you're talking about potentially going a full calendar year, maybe longer, without even allowing recruits to, number one, get on campus, do an on-campus visit, and number two, the potential of not seeing your team play for over a year. So there are a lot of repercussions here, but at the same time, what are you risking if you try to fit in an 8-game season in the spring? You know, we've talked about health and safety for players. We've talked about potentially interrupting the 2021 schedule, and you can't eliminate those non-conference games. There are a group of 5 programs, you know, from the Mountain West, from the MAC, and from other leagues who have lost a lot of money because the Big Ten chose to cancel. They're not going to walk away empty-handed. And you've already seen now you have potentially, you know, Nebraska and Ohio State potentially filing lawsuits. Nebraska's players already have filed a lawsuit against the Big Ten. Ohio State, the Ohio Attorney General recommended that if some sort of season wasn't reinstated, to sue the Big Ten and the 11 schools that voted no to play this season.
That's gigantic. This is the Speaker of the House. This is not some backwater little bitty 6-person town representative. It's the Speaker of the House in the state that houses the motor vehicle industry. This is a state that is a battleground state in this election coming up. And don't act like that stuff. People don't act like that does not play into this. It does. Look where these battleground states are: Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan. Where are these states located? Right in the middle of the Big Ten. So yeah, it all plays a part into it. But gosh, I want them to play now. I can't believe, and I keep going on and on, that they didn't wait to pull the plug, because nothing has precipitated them to do so up to this point. Yesterday I was talking about IU Bloomington is investigating a second big party that caught social media's attention on Labor Day weekend. There's a bunch of boats that the kids are all together and blah, blah, blah. But my point is, you took a situation, football or fall sports, where you've got all these procedures, protocols in place. The student athletes are very vigilant and being very duty-fied in what they're doing. So you've got great control there, and yet that's not safe enough. Yet over here, you're running to bring students back with zero control, with zero things to keep them in check. And that's okay. That's safe. 4 times as many people in an unchecked environment. That's okay. But this was not. It makes it's nonsensical. It makes zero sense. And there's no way I think they can back out of making this gigantic blunder that they have made. Yeah. And, you know, we talked about it often that, you know, you have to have a lot of really smart people swallow their pride and say they were wrong. And I just don't think that's going to happen. But I think the interesting thing that you bring up is when you look at the football team, these athletic programs are in these bubble-like situations. I know it's not like the NBA bubble or anything like that they have down in Orlando, but they're interacting with their coaches, their staff, and the other players. Self-imposed bubble of sorts. Right. And nobody wants to be that guy who has a game postponed, or who has, has to forfeit, or whatever the case might be. There's just too much on the line and too much at stake. Nobody wants to be that guy. But the interesting thing is, to me, it's almost like these presidents and these administrators are saying, hey, these mass amounts of students, we're putting the blame on them. We're not taking any responsibility for this. These are dumb students who aren't taking this seriously, and that's not our fault. We can't watch 40,000 students. Meanwhile, I wonder when you have such a controlled environment, the president, if there is an outbreak, I wonder if the presidents and administrators feel like, hey,
we're in this controlled environment. What did we do wrong? They can't place as much of the blame on the student athletes or on those students because it's more of a controlled environment. So it comes back to that liability issue. And, to me, I'm obviously not a lawyer or anything by that stretch, so I don't know what the difference is between the student athletes and the students. But I think that's why it all comes back to this wasn't done out of the health and safety of the student athletes. This was done out of a liability issue and potential lawsuits. And they're just kind of labeling it as health and safety when, as for a month now, we've had no data or no information that has backed up the decision to cancel the season. And you're starting to see that with FCS schools that played, Group of 5 schools that played, other Power 5 programs are pushing forward. So the Big Ten is losing a lot of credibility right now. And it's going to be interesting to see if they do try to muster something up with a potential salvaging some sort of fall season, or if they just go ahead and punt until spring.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting because the coaches don't want to play in spring. They don't want it for their athletes, for their players. I don't think the players want to play in spring.
No, I don't think so either. And that's what Dan Patrick said in that interview. Essentially, you're going to start seeing players back out of it because what's the point? A spring Rose Bowl might be good in theory, but no, there's not going to be a lot of people watching that. So I don't understand the incentive for players to play either.
The Big Ten has got a long way to go to fix this massive crater they have left in the conference. And it's not just the conference. We've talked about this. It's the towns, it's the schools, it's the athletic programs. We've already seen universities within the conference cutting athletic programs. You've got coaches, you've got furloughs, Indiana's furloughing people, all this because of the lack of football. And it doesn't, no other sport matters. And I don't mean this disparagingly, but soccer doesn't matter. Soccer does not make money. Women's soccer does not make money. These other fall sports do not make money. Football drives the train. And not only does it make money, it pays for these things. And when they're not being paid for and they're still going forward, that creates a deficit. And that's where these programs are right now. But it's just, again, the towns, whether you're talking about Ann Arbor, Michigan, or Lincoln, Nebraska, or Bloomington, Indiana, it's a fabric. And it's not just the tailgating. It's just the environment that comes and keeps these towns lifted up. Man, it's created a bunch of ghost towns, which permeates all of our own psyches.
Right. And, you have to add that on top of the fact that everything has been, shut down or limited capacity since March in a lot of areas. So when you're talking about these college towns, they depend on students. They depend on those 6 or 7 fall Saturdays, that run from September through November. And I think that's the frustrating part from a fan's perspective. I know that the Big Ten is its own, entity and doesn't have to provide an explanation to us, the fans, or us, the employees. But at the same time, when you have so many jobs on the line, when you have so many towns affected by this, when you have universities and donors, and you're asking people to purchase subscriptions to Big Ten Network, and you have people that are attending these games, paying for season tickets, there should be some sort of explanation here. And the really sad part is you're still not getting it for the coaches, for the players, for the parents. It's just a bunch of silence, and you can't operate that way. Your company's going to fail. And right now you're seeing the Big Ten is failing, and it's been kicked around from everywhere, from ESPN to this show to websites across the country. And it's just disappointing that we have gotten no explanation. And we're, just tomorrow will be 1 month since the decision was made, and we still really don't know why they made that decision.
And the funny thing is, they don't seem any closer to talking about that. They're just hoping that the next thing comes up that they can kind of go on to.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they've provided very little insight, and they're trying to. I think what they're hoping for is that there's some sort of outbreak, or quietly. You're not going to publicly wish that, but you're hoping that some of these other conferences shut down. I think that's what they're honestly hoping for at this point, so that they don't look like the fools, right? You want to look like, they were able to get 2 weeks into the season and then everything had to shut down. I think that's right now what Big Ten presidents and Commissioner Kevin Warren are hoping for. They can still, there's an outside chance they could still look like the smartest guys in the room by making this decision and saying, this is what we forecast, this is what we thought. But at the same time, I think the Big Ten and the presidents and Commissioner Warren thought that once they had the Pac-12 on board, that the dominoes would fall in the ACC, the Big 12, and the SEC would finally close up shop. And right now, you've had 10 college football games played, and they've done an incredible job of keeping those players safe, limiting the outbreak of COVID-19, and you've been able to have successful college football games, and you have teams playing their second or third games this weekend.
I agree. One thing we will not be hearing this tonight, rather. Can you hear that?
I can't.
Man, where's the volume? That's a song we will not be hearing tonight. Hank Williams.
Yeah.
Hank Jr.'s song on Money on Football this year. They're not using it. They said they didn't think it was appropriate with the time, and I'm like, why? I think anything that fires people up, and that song fires people up. I mean, it gets you jacked up. I mean, but they're not using the song this year, which means it probably won't come back. What's that? Yeah. That means that song probably won't be coming back, unfortunately. But there's another change. No Hank Jr. But we do have football tonight. The NFL and the Power Five, as you mentioned earlier. On the NFL side, the Texans and the Chiefs. Kansas City, a 9.5-point favorite that game. Looking forward to seeing that. Miami at UAB doesn't sound quite as exciting as the first game, but UAB, this is like their second or third game already. So they're up and running, and the ACC in Miami, we'll see what they have to offer.
Yeah, they got new quarterback Derek King out of Houston, so there's some optimism there after a 6-7 season. Manny Diaz is in his second year at Miami, and like I said, UAB in their second game, it'll be interesting to see if that one game of experience helps them maybe pull off an upset in Miami tonight.
We'll look forward to it. Will, are we at the time yet? All right, that's going to wrap it up. I appreciate everybody for joining us today, especially Don Fischer, Dane Fife, both joining us here on the program. What an incredible opportunity to have those guys on together. It was great. 20 years since Bob Knight's firing. Crazy. Cannot thank Dustin Schutte enough. Always with us, but with us extended time. He'll be with us each and every Thursday from now on, so looking forward to that. Todd Leary back tomorrow with us, and we'll see who else we can scare up. Of course, I like Lasley from thehoosier.com. We got plenty to talk about on the basketball side. But until then, thanks a lot, Dustin. I appreciate you, brother. Go out and have a great week.
Hey, thanks, Jim. You guys do the same.
All right, until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. Do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask. And until then, I will see you on the radio.